There we go. Okay, hi, how you guys doing? Just again, I want to see how many guys here were not here last time. So it's about half, so half of the time. Anybody who knows me, there's one thing I do a lot is I try to hand out these sheets anytime we talk, because to me Wing Chun is nothing without principle and theory. Simply put, it's what distinguishes Wing Chun from everything else. So we have to have a guidelines. If we're going to debate, I don't like what ifs. If you think you have a more efficient way and you can prove it on that sheet that your way is more efficient, I'll take it. So, you know, anybody who I teach, after a couple of months, we can start talking about this stuff. After a couple of years, we can really start debating it. My Sifu gave me advice at the very beginning when he used to say it all the time. Don't trust me, trust yourself. Right? And he used to have, for his seminars, he'd draw, and he'd be like, what's this? And everybody would go, oh, it's flow, it's energy. He's like, it's a circle. If I tell you this is a square, you gotta look at me and go, yeah, okay. But in your head, you gotta know it's a circle. That's right? So anything I say today, I don't want you guys to believe me. Okay? If you guys agree with me, great. If you don't, we can discuss it. But think for yourselves. That's the number one thing. Right? So for the guys that weren't here last time, I spoke about the principles and theories and the idioms, and we'll just do a quick overview just to see how you guys are thinking. And then we're going to go into the attributes and how to physically develop. Okay? So first one on the sheet is straight line, I believe. Is it? Okay. Somebody explain to me what center line theory is, please. Can I have a hand? Don't be shy. It's like class. I'm going to pick somebody. Go for it. Is a straight line. Okay? So the complete phrase that you're trying to say is the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. It's a mathematical fact. It's not a theory. It's a fact. If you treat it in that way, you're actually treating it as one of the principles. Save time, save movement, save energy. Okay? So if we're going to separate it from the principles, there's got to be a reason. So straight line theory. Can somebody give it a shot? Go for it.
A straight attack will be like a rounded or attack coming from a different angle.
Okay, that's very presumptuous. If I give you a bat and I take a pea in a straw, okay, and somebody says go, and I go, and I hit you, and you start swinging that bat, who's going to win?
I'm going to go with me.
There we go. So saying that it's going to win,
But if you had something more powerful.
that's the key. That's the key. In Wing Chun, we have a belief that if you cannot knock any man down in 3 shots, 3 hits, you don't have enough power. We're not saying how to hit. We're not saying where to hit. We're just saying hit. If you cannot knock any man down in 3 shots, there's not enough power. So now we flip the script. I give you a machete, even more dangerous than the bat, but I got a gun. And somebody says go, and I pull that trigger and boom, boom, and that power goes out and you drop. Now that's proving the theory. That arriving first is only part of it. You have to arrive with enough power that the circle doesn't matter anymore. Without having the power, that circle still matters. Right? So it's a theory, and theories have to be proven. And when you look in the dictionary, it is a high level of success. It's not a fact, but it's a high level of success. So what makes it have a higher level of success? Power. Right? So in Kung Fu, we do Kung Fu, basically you have to use energy. How much energy you use in relation to somebody else, that's a different story. But there is energy. You have to have energy. Without energy, you cannot perform. Right? So talking about energy and power, we can talk about that when we start getting into the attributes and stuff. But it's very important to understand that power is a very big issue for Wing Chun. Right? Again, not saying how or where to hit, but why do we say 3 hits? If the guy does not fall after 3 hits, what must you do?
Run.
Hit him again, and again, and again, and again, and don't stop. But when you're like, man, I hit this guy 7 times, you don't walk away going, man, he was tough. You walk away saying, man, I don't have enough power. What do I have to do to develop power? Right? So it really comes down to the Wing Tsun is very explosive when you start performing high level and training very well. Wing Tsun can be very explosive. Everybody's heard of inch power, right? Inch power is an explosion. It's like a gunshot, right? So if you want to develop inch power, then you have to figure out, well, okay, what is this? What you can change the words to impulse, right? What is an impulse? An impulse is a change of momentum, right? So from nothing to everything, back to nothing, right? But power is very important for Wing Tsun, right? But there's more to it than power. You can't get fixated. It's only one aspect. If we look at center line, what is center line? Theory. Somebody want to give it a shot?
It's a vertical line that divides your body in half.
With vertical line, okay, yes. But where in half? It's very specific. How do you keep equal points? If I face you like this and you cut my body in half, is my body equal? No? So it vertically down the front of the body is how we distinguish center line. Okay? So what is center line theory? You told me what it is, but what's the theory? You have to know what it is before you can talk about it, but again, it's a theory.
We're saying to both sides equally. It's your center line.
So you're telling me what it is, but what is the theory? We talked about it earlier today, right? So, okay, I'll just go through it because he's going to say it. And basically, center line theory is how many things can occupy one spot at a time? 1. Everybody agree so far? Okay, so if only one thing can occupy center and I occupy center, what must, if me and Danny are training, if I occupy center, what must he do? You're giving me incomplete sentences. You're saying change it. I don't know what it is.
Change the center.
There is only one center line. There's the center line, so you can't change it.
You can't use a straight line.
Pardon me?
You can't use a straight line. You have to move circle.
That's it. If I occupy this spot and you cannot approach because the door is shut, what must you do? You must go around. Right? So when I'm using center line and I'm covering center line, I'm actually forcing others to go around, to make circles. Right? So if we understand that only one thing can occupy a spot at a time, and if I occupy it, my Qigong had a way of describing it. It was very interesting. If I want nobody to go into this room, I can put guards at every door and try to keep you out. Or I can fill this room with cement and try to get in. Right? Filling the center line, the best way to control center line is to occupy it. Right? So if you occupy center, nobody else can. Right? So therefore you force them to go around in circles. And then we go to a very interesting point now. We can go to the idiom, let's hand last go forward. If I occupy center and you choose to go around, I can now use straight line theory. And that's the beauty of Wing Tsun, is if you prove something correct in one spot, it proves itself right somewhere else. So you can be your own checking point. Okay? We have 3 principles: save time, save movement, save energy. Right? This is a totally different thing. This is now talking about becoming efficient. If you can save time in one spot by saving movement, you save energy. If you can save energy in one spot and save movement, you typically save time. Right? A good analogy that I use is punching fast is one thing. Punching efficient is a totally different story. Right? You pull your hand back that little inch just to try to generate more power, you've pulled back 1 inch. What must it do now? It has to come back to the start point, and you've moved 2 inches without going anywhere. That's like saying, on your mark, get set, go. And now start running. Right? So if you guys can look into the principles, how to save time, how to save movement, how to save energy, understand center line, straight line, that's economy of motion. It's which a nice little catchphrase that everybody who does Wing Tsun talks about. Economy of motion. Really, that's what it is. Okay? If we go into the idioms, because we're just going to do this real quick. I really want to talk about the attributes today. Right? If we go into the idioms, to me that is, okay, the principle and theories, that's the mental game of how to learn. Okay? That's your checks and balances when you want to debate on if you're doing something well or not. If you go into the idioms are totally different. What do you guys think the idioms are for? Anybody know what an idiom is?
Language.
It might even be on your sheet.
Extended phrase or expression that means something literal.
Exactly. That's actually from Webster's dictionary. Okay. So that's actually the phrase I took out of Webster's dictionary for it. So we understand what an idiom is. It's an accepted phrase or saying that has more meaning than the literal. Okay? So when you top one on the list, doi ying. Okay? Face shape. Doi, face, ying is like an abstract shape. Nothing clear, but it's a shape. It's there. Okay? What is doi ying? Somebody want to give it a shot?
Mirror image.
Mirror image. Okay. So if you're facing me and I turn this way, are we mirror image?
No.
But you're facing me. Somebody else want to give it a shot? Don't. Hold on. He raised. I'll take it a second. Actually, who said it? Just go. Okay. Square off to the person. Okay.
The shape.
Give me the definition of idiom, please. More meaning than the literal. Somebody else want to give me face the shape? Yes.
The fact that the shape means that you don't see the person as, let's say he's bigger, he's taller, so you don't have.
Getting close. It's getting pretty close. That, there's two words to it. You hit the second word, shape. Why not enemy? Why not person?
You can't make you more.
What did you say to me when you first met me? Do you remember downstairs? You heard my name. You heard something about me.
Your power.
Okay, so I've heard your name. I heard you have a lot of power. What did you say afterwards? You expected me to be bigger.
Oh, I thought
Okay, so, and that's fair. I'm not an intimidating guy.
Oh yeah, no, I meant.
Right? I'm not. People who say that when I get serious, my face changes, but that's not because I'm trying to scare you. It's just we're getting serious now. But I'm not that big. There are a lot of people in this room that are bigger than I am. They may even have more power than me, but I know I do have power. Okay? So if we look at somebody and we see a guy who is 6'3", broken teeth, all that says to me is this guy's getting punched in his mouth quite often. Okay? But if I see a guy who's 6'3", 200 pounds, tattoos, broken teeth, wow, this guy's scary. But if I look at him at a shape, a 200-pound punching bag, how intimidating is that? It's just a target. There's no fear. Nothing. Now let's flip the script. You see me with my kids. And I'm holding my kid. And I'm not necessarily me. Let's just say I'm an average guy. Okay, I'm an average guy holding my kid. And you cut me off. Well, you did something really rude. Or driving. The guy jumps out of the car and you see child in car, baby in car. And this guy's coming at him, but you know he's going to throw it at you. Are you going to have remorse, pity, guilt? It is a lack of emotion by using the word shape. It's actually very interesting. In Vietnam, they had the guys going into the tunnels to clear out the tunnels. And they would come around the corner and have a guy dead to rights. And the guy wouldn't pull the trigger because he saw a guy eating a fucking bowl of rice. He's just, oh, sorry, didn't mean to swear. But he's eating a bowl of rice. And they would see him as a person eating rice and not pull the trigger. And the States went, wow, we can't have that happen. And they changed the military training to sight recognition. So they shoot at shapes. Right? Wing Chun's just been doing this for 500 years. But that is how you have to look at things. You have to look at shapes. You don't see frailty. You don't see intimidation. It's a shape, right? But we go to the first word, doi, face. What do we think about this? Oh yeah. Sorry for all the ladies. You guys will not get this in the same context as a man. Okay. Face it like a man. You say that to a girl and you're like, well, why are you being so stupid? But you say that to a guy and his back straightens. Right? Face it like a man. You can't turn your back on life. So if something's happening, what must you do? Here we go. And go face it. But you're facing it with no fear, no guilt, no remorse. You're just facing it. So that has more meaning than the literal. Now, let's go to more of, that's abstract. That's something that you got to play with and develop and stuff. But let's be a little bit more, let's find value for the moment. Why do we face in Wing Tsun?
Sorry?
Literally, why do we face? Forget the fight spirit. I talk about idioms as fight spirit.
For keep your shape in the straight and
What value does that have for you?
Sorry?
What value does that have for you?
Use both hands.
Everybody says it, and it's true. Very true. Without facing, without being square, you cannot have fansa, which means the ability to continue from one hand to the other. But what else? These are all very true. But a lot of times don't settle the argument of the value of it. John,
The only place you can't really defend is your back.
try to protect your back. Right? And this is universal to all martial arts, but not sport. Okay, when you take about boxing, they can take away 50% of their target area because you're not allowed to hit the back. But in physics, nothing ever disappears, it just changes. So if you take 50% of your target area away, what are you actually doing? You're giving 50% of your back. And if you really understand that this is the one spot you can't protect, who here is an MMA fan? Well, there's a couple. I think there's more than just two. But, okay, let's just go into a similarity. What's the number one spot if you do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu you want to be? You want to be on his back. Why? Because he can't protect it. Right? So they're doing it because you can't protect it if they're on it. So what must you do? Never expose your back. Having your back against the wall, knowing nobody's coming up from behind, is not a bad thing. You have to understand that anybody tries to get around, right? You let them get halfway around, you're letting them halfway to your back. If you choose to turn halfway sideways, you're letting them halfway to your back. Right? That is one of the main values of being square. You have options, both hands equal, fansao, all that, it's all very true. But for me, the idea that I can't protect this means I have to keep it away. Okay? So when we play with the idioms, we have to look at them with the underlining meanings, right? Give me another one that we can talk about. I don't want to do all of them, we'll just go over it real quick.
He comes, I remain, he leaves, I pursue.
Now think of it in fight spirit terms, as an idiom with more meaning than the literal. What do you get from that? And again, ladies, you have to look at it from a man's point of view, even though Wing Tsun was developed by a woman.
He comes, I remain, he leaves, I curse.
All right, what? Pursue. Pursue is what I meant to spell. Sorry. I blame my wife for that. She's the teacher. She didn't spell check. Okay. So, but enemy comes, I remain. Enemy leaves, I pursue. As a guy, what would you say this gives you a feeling of? Without swearing. Well, we're being videotaped, so bleep the last one I did, and we'll choose not to. You want to come? Here I am. You want to come? Here I am. I'm not going anywhere. That's it. Flat out. You want to come? Here I am. In Wing Tsun, there is no such thing as retreat. None. does not mean you cannot step back. But why would you ever step back if you're not retreating? Loss of balance?
Create space.
For what?
Your hands are off center.
Oh, we're not going to allow that to happen. Choke you. If you're choke you, if your hands have collapsed, you cannot allow your hands to collapse. So when you're doing chi sao and somebody's pressing forward, if your hands are starting to collapse because they got more energy than you must step back. If your hands are good and they're not collapsing, but your horse isn't strong enough to support it, and you're losing your balance, you must step back. But you're never running away. And if you want to go, I'll help you go. Yeah, help them, send them. Right? So you have to play with the idioms in this type of way to get the right fight spirit. Because if you train and we'll go with this. What does Wing Tsun have in common with every other system like Charlie Foot, Taekwondo, Karate, BJJ? What are they? What is the similarity between them? What connects them all? Give me a title. They're all human. The people are, yes, but
The end result is actually walking away unharmed.
well, that's the goal. But what are they? They are martial arts. And which is the really important aspect in those two words? Martial arts. Martial meaning fighting. Right? I don't consider Wing Tsun a martial art, I consider it a fighting system. But fighting, martial, it's all the same. Right? So in that sense, you have to train with some intensity, with some what's the word I'm looking for? Focus. Because you are trying to develop something. Right? So Wing Tsun, the reason why I don't consider it martial art is when you see a karate kata or wushu doing a form, you can actually see the beauty in the form. Our forms are very basic, very simple. And they're not very flashy, so they're not really that artistic, but they're very purposeful. So it is a fighting system. Just so I don't make it sound like I'm promoting violence, Sigong years ago said to us, you train today, boom, boom, 2 shots, the guy's down. Train a little bit more, boom, 1 shot, the guy's down. Train a little bit more and you just look and he will not come. Right? And what does that do? What have you at that point done?
Confidence.
Confidence. You have built enough confidence that the guy will not come. You don't want to ever fight? Have confidence and fights don't come to you. Right? So imagine you train to a point where you're confident that if any man comes to you, you can take care of yourself. Imagine how liberating that is to walk without fear. And you're just comfortable. You're not trying to prove yourself to anybody. You're just comfortable. And in my opinion, the goal of all martial arts, no matter what system you do, should have the end result. And that end result is, if your training has brought you to a point of confidence that nobody is willing to fight, it's done its job. We just happen to do it with Wing Tsun. And if whatever martial art you do brings you to that point, good for you. Again, our Kung Fu family does it with Wing Tsun. Right? So going back to what we really wanted to talk about was the attributes. Right? The attributes to me is the physical training. And now if we've understood that all martial arts have this common thing, what does martial arts have in common with, excuse me, hockey, football, baseball, basketball, Olympic wrestling, Olympic diving, gymnastics?
Takes practice.
Takes practice, they all do. Do you guys know what Kung Fu actually translates to? Hard work. Kung Fu translates to hard work. Okay? So there is going to be a level of effort that you have to put in to develop. But what do these things that I've mentioned and martial arts have in common? Pardon me?
Balance, time, and coordination.
You have to use them to develop, yes. Pardon me? I'm looking for one particular word. One at a time, please.
Concentration.
Yeah, it takes concentration. They're physical. So at this point, what are we going to change the word? If it's physical and you're in school, there's a department. And it's also called the athletic department. So you have to train with the mindset of athletics. You have to train with the mindset of an athlete if you want to perform, right? And going back to what does Kung Fu mean? Hard work, right? So when you're training, there should be sweat, there should be effort, because it's hard work. The talking of the principles and theories have to be backed up by the physical thing. So when you are doing Tanda as a physical movement, you do it in a certain way to back up the principle and theories. So you are physically proving the principles and theories correct. But again, we have to think about athletics, right? We have to think about as a person who's trying to physically do something, right? This way, you train today, you leave the door and you say, I gave my best effort. That's good enough. You come back and you walk out that door and you say, I gave my best effort. And you can honestly say that to yourself, you will improve. But you come in, I'm tired, not in the mood, want to hang out. You can do all those things, but physically, you have to put in the effort to improve, right? And let's be realistic, some people join the club for different reasons. Some people want a social outlet, some people want a physical outlet, some people want to learn a discipline to feel that they can protect themselves. People come for different reasons, so you have to understand that not everybody who goes to the gym wants to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? People who join gyms for different reasons, people join Kung Fu schools for different reasons. But we are looking at a physical pursuit, right? So, if we're going to look at that as the third compound of the principles and theories are the mental game of Wing Tsun, the idioms are the fight spirit of Wing Tsun, then the attributes are not actually Wing Tsun. They're for anything athletic. And if you understand these things, then you will be able to develop them and actually be able to talk to somebody who does not do Wing Tsun and be able to relate to balance, coordination, orientation, relaxation, timing. Because these things are universal to anything athletic. Okay? So on that, now we can start talking about the attributes. Okay? So before we can figure out what we're training, we have to figure out what we're trying to train. And my view on Wing Tsun is just a bunch of exercises. From Chi Sao to Silum Tao, to the Longtime Kwan, to the Pacham Do. These things are exercises for you to develop. And what you're developing is for offhand, right? Because when you do get in an altercation, you may not have the opportunity to put your hands out to touch them. It may come from a distance. But from a distance or from close, it's the same. Right? So you have to, when you do Chi Sao, you have to think about the principles and theories, the idioms, and how am I physically developing and taking away those benefits for when I'm not training and I'm just walking around. Right? So the first one, I can't remember which one is the first one. Balance. What is balance? Before we can talk about balance and how to develop it, we have to understand what it is. Anybody want to give it a shot? And if you guys can come up with a more specific explanation of what it is, I'll take it. Okay? But we did a lot of work on this, and we got it pretty good. If you guys can find something better, I'll take it. Okay? What is balance? Anyone want to give it a shot? Ricky.
Search for stability.
Hit one keyword. What else besides stability? If you lie on the floor or sit like you're doing, you're stable as hell. Is that balance? Compromise. How so?
Compromise, you don't want too much energy going forward, you want too much energy going backwards. You don't want too much energy going forward, you want too much when you're up. That balance, everything has to be compromised, so that's sufficient.
It's not really to the gist of it, though. I understand what you're saying, but it's not really to the gist of it. Center of mass is very important. Yeah. Anybody know where that center of mass is?
Keep both sides equal.
You don't have to. In wushu, Ivan loves it when I do this. In wushu, in one of the old forms, they used to have this thing, and I don't do wushu, so forgive me. And they would go like this and hold. It's not equal. One leg's way out here, one leg's down there. One arm's out here, one arm's out here. But they're balanced. Control. Stability, to me, is the word that we're looking for when you talk about control, because you're stable. Center of mass, what is it? You mentioned it, you know what it is? No. Center of gravity in the body is actually where the what do you call it? Sacrum meets the pelvis. Okay? That's your actual center of gravity. Okay? Very interesting. Do you guys know where this is in the front? Dante. Okay? So when they talk about where to store it, it's actually right in front of your sacrum, which is your center of gravity. Okay? So understanding that that's your center of gravity, if I do this, am I moving with balance? I'm not moving with my center of gravity. If I want to step, I have to step here. If somebody tries to press, I don't press back here, I press back here to remain. So center of gravity is very important to understand balance. But going back to the definition of balance, the key to balance is to be upright with stability. Because stability, you can lie on the ground, you're not upright, but you're stable. If you're upright, but you're teetering all the time, no stability, there's no balance. So the two keys to balance is to be upright with stability. Then when you're training and you're doing all your things, and we can do different exercises that we have in Chi Sao, is huge for balance. Right? It's one of the biggest ones that we have, but even our forms focus on it. Right? When you see a guy do Silam Tao, what do you think the form is for? And just to give you guys a clue so you guys don't start throwing things at me, I'm not necessarily saying application. Okay, this move is the application to do this. This move is the application to do this. Because that's not what we're talking about. We're talking more about how to physically develop as an athlete. And using the forms and the exercises as exercises to develop these attributes. So if you see, we open up in Silam Tao. Okay? What have I done?
Mark your center.
I've marked my center by crossing. Yes. And showing the center line. Before I did that, what did I do?
Got your horse stance.
Opened up the stance. Okay? So what kind of balance am I learning? Static. That's the key. Who said it? Gary. All right. He knows me. So, okay, static balance. Balance without movement. Okay? And you have a whole form that you're doing this. What else do you think Silam Tao's for?
Relaxation.
Yeah, okay. Internal energy? Who said it? Yes? Do you guys know how long Silam Tao is supposed to take?
30 minutes.
1 instant per side. So however long an instant is, when you burn that instant, and you're here, and you're going from here to here to here, 1 instant per side, which is about 20 minutes. Okay? So when you're talking about doing it in that way, you're talking about internal energy. How to develop the energy. But now you've developed it, what must you do?
Release.
Learn to release it in all different directions. Okay? And that's where you can talk about internal energy. But in Wing Tsun, we have 3 engines of power. What are they? Hip, elbow, wrist. Okay? So now while we're going back to balance, we're learning static balance. Okay? But we also are learning hip, elbow, wrist. but I'm not moving, so it's static. But now when I'm learning how to build energy, that's one thing, but how to release it in all different directions. And you're just starting to release the energy that you've built. And you can focus on elbow power, wrist power. Just 2 engines that you don't have to dive deep into the internal part. It's just 2 engines, excuse me, for you to release the power. And then we have a second form, Chum Q. And what do we do in Chum Q? Move, shift. And what is shifting for? Pardon me?
Bring power.
Bring what kind of power? Hip power. It's the connection to Silantal. In Silantal, you're learning how to develop elbow power, wrist power. Now you get into Chum Q. How do you turn? And the hip is the same as the elbow, same as the wrist. What is it? It's a joint. It's a ball joint, but it's a joint. So you're learning how to use 3 joints for power, right? So you're here, turn, 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 turn. Not necessarily fast, but with as much hip power as possible. And what does that hip power also develop? Excuse me. You guys want to give it another shot? Inch power can help you. You can when you start learning it, how to use it as a joint, and you can start boom. That little, and then using that with the elbow and using that with the wrist, and you just boom. You can start sending power in.
Balance.
What kind of balance?
Moving.
Change the word to dynamic, and it is, right? So Silantal, you can focus on static balance, how to develop energy, how to release it in all different directions. Get to Chum Q. Now, hip power, dynamic balance while you're moving, right? So we have forms that actually will help you as an exercise. Develop the power, right? Get into Chi Sao. Chi Sao is huge for balance because you have all that pressure on you, right? When you first start rolling, there's no pressure because there's no movement. But as soon as you start moving forward and back, you start building a lot of pressure, right? Without that pressure, you can't develop balance. Right? So, balance. To be upright with stability. I want everybody to try this for a second. Stand up. Okay, from this point, everybody who's done this, hold the leg up. And that takes balance. Danny, come here. Actually, I want somebody who is very junior. Who's very junior? Who thinks they have poor balance? Come. This is less effective, but still effective for people who have balance. Okay. Foot up, as high as you can, facing down.
Straight?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Balance isn't bad, but you see a little bit of teetering. Fingertip out, please. There you go. Fingertip out. Touch. Fingertip to fingertip. Just a fingertip.
Yeah, makes it a lot better.
Fingertip to fingertip. Feel the difference. Right? Give it a shot. Just give it a shot for a second. Just real quick. Now, hold one leg up. Feel. The higher you hold the leg up, the more difficult it's going to be. It makes a huge difference. The higher you hold your leg up. This is what I'm talking about. Wing Chun builds upon each other. If you have it in one spot, you can see it in the other. Take a look quickly at the idioms and see where you think this Wrong bong style is best with kick. Right? So when you're standing on one foot, isn't that where you're at your worst possible balance? Okay? So wrong bong style, anybody who doesn't know what that means is inside bong. Jake, can I borrow you for a second, please? So we don't want people to see us kicking, but feeling it is a different story. Okay? I won't do it.
Thanks.
Okay. So, okay. So how much room? Stand back, please. If he steps forward and punches, and I'm here, wrong bong so. Okay? This is the perfect opportunity now to kick. Because when I change, I use him as my second leg. Right? So from this point, when he comes, all this easy. And if you can feel the balance that you have with touching with one finger, imagine having your whole palm on. But if you want to kick from here and not have contact, your balance is questionable. You may still have fantastic balance. I'm not saying you can't kick from not touching, but the way we do things is we want things to be as secure as possible. So raising a leg off the ground is never going to be as stable as having 2 feet on the ground. So how do I compromise this? I use the person. And he won't see it come. Because from here, we can do the other side, please. You won't see that. You won't see it. Sorry, you okay? Right? Right? You won't see it. If I do the kick from here, he sees it. And I also don't have balance. As well as I would if I had both feet on the ground. Thanks. Right? So balance is very important. Right? So when you're doing chi sao, when you're doing other things, and we can get to those later. I just don't want to use all the time on one attribute. Right? So at that point, when you're doing chi sao, you have to figure out balance. Anybody know where the balance is in Wing Tsun? Where we balance ourselves on the ground? Anybody want to take a guess?
Midfoot?
Pardon me?
Midfoot?
Midfoot. It's correct, but I want to change the word. Not mid.
Centerfoot?
Instep. Instep. If you know architecture and any old architecture, everything they did to support weight was in an arch. And in the arch, there was a keystone. And the more weight you put on the keystone, the more of the weight went into the ground equally. Our foot has an arch. Okay? So when you have your foot, you have the ball of your foot and the heel. And from that point on, you want your foot not turned in, not rolled out, not on your toes, not on your heels. You want it like 2 screws, screwing your instep into the ground, like the keystone. And when you shift, it's over the 1 instep. And that way you can support your balance a little bit better. And be upright, stability, all that stuff. Right? So when you're walking, you can do simple things while you're walking. Heel touches, recognize that moment that your foot has gone flat. Don't squeeze the ground with your toes. Right? If I try to grab this, okay, and my goal is to squeeze this instep, or my hand in this case, if you grab with your toes, what does it do? If I grab with my fingers, what happened? I lifted it. So if I here and I grab with my toes, I'll actually lift the balls of my feet off the ground. And then I cannot use my instep to screw myself into the ground between the balls of my feet and the heels. Right? Your feet, you don't want them up in the air, toes. But you want the balance between the ball of the foot and the heel. Like 2 screws through the instep. Okay? Squeeze with your finger, Danny.
Oh, I was just thinking there's a way where you can still have fingers squeeze the floor and still be able to.
The more you squeeze with your fingers, the more you squeeze with your toes,
Yeah.
the more you'll press the ball up.
Yeah.
Right? So at that point, I'm not saying raise them off. But if you say grab the ground, well, if I grab the ground, then the harder I grab the ground, the better. Because I'm grabbing it. The more you squeeze with your toes, the more you'll raise your balls and the feet off the ground. Right? So it'll actually make it a little bit more difficult. You'll put the weight onto your heels and your toes, and you'll actually become less stable. You want it like 2 screws screwing your feet into the ground. Right? Like the keystone. Okay? We'll go to another idiom, another attribute, just to make sure we cover them all, and then we can go back with some exercises.
Time.
Pardon me? Timing's the next one. What is timing?
At the right place in the right moment.
Moment's very important. It's very specific. Somebody else want to give it a shot?
Signals?
Signals. Pardon me? That would be rhythm, wouldn't it? Timing is a specific moment. If you ever have the opportunity to go pick your sifu up at the airport, don't show up tomorrow. Don't show up the day before. Show up on time. And you're not allowed to use the word in your phrase, so time I cannot use. It's a specific moment. It's the moment two objects meet. It's very specific. The best time to show up at the airport is when your sifu's walking out of picking up his luggage. He walks out into that thing and you're like, hi sifu, let's go. If you show up 3 hours early, you're waiting for 3 hours. If you show up 3 hours late, he's waiting for 3 hours. There's a specific moment. When that plane hits the tarmac, gets off the plane, gets through customs, gets to luggage, comes out, you're there. Very specific. Right? Very specific. The moment two objects meet. All this, there's no conclusion until you have contact. Right? So the timing is when two objects meet. That's the definition of time. Now that you understand that that is a specific moment, you can vary the moment that they meet to your desire. You can make it happen before, during, after. Right? You can affect timing. But the key to timing is the focus is at the moment they meet. The moment you start is all variable. But the moment that you meet is the specific moment. So you need two objects to meet. Right? Training partner, heavy bag, punching in the air. Right? If I stand here and I punch and then move, does that seem decent? Anybody? Hands up. Who says that one's good? Good. I like your answer. Okay? I step and punch. Ricky, come here please. Sure. Just use it as an example. So, over here. Better example with this, even though you can do it in the air. If I am training with Ricky, and Ricky has his hands up, and I punch and then arrive, how good is my timing? Not very good. Okay? If I arrive and don't do anything, he can punch me in the mouth then. I gotten close enough, but I did nothing. I have to arrive and hit at the same time. That is timing. Knowing that when this hand lands here, that foot lands there. And then you have your timing. And you can do this in the air. This hand's going to finish when that foot lands. Not step, punch. Not punch, step. But timing your hand to finish when the foot lands. When you're training with a partner, I know contact's not always ideal. A lot of people don't like it. But even if you use light contact or touch, knowing the moment that that's going to touch when I'm in. Right? I don't want to, the timing's off. So when you're training with your partners, you have the opportunity to focus on timing. Right? This way, again, what is the focus? What am I trying to do when I'm training with timing? I'm trying to make this match this. No, that specific moment. Now, when we use Pakda as an example, just to throw this out, a lot of people want to do Pak together, correct? But when you're moving distance, what's closer to me, this or this? The hand. So if I clear this, how do I arrive at the same time? The key is don't fire at the same time. Right? I cannot do this at the same time and cover this distance because this has to be dealt with before this because this is closer than this. But I don't want this, 1, 2, but I have to understand that this, you're going to hear sounds, But you're never going to hear this slap and this hit at the same time. It's impossible because they are different distances. So this has to be dealt with as I approach. But if Ricky makes a fist, the pack is simple. I have to make enough room for this to slide through. Doing it in 2 moves means you go 1, damn. I don't want this either, right? But if I fire at the same time, I can't cover the distance. So the timing is, you're dealing with this and opening a door so you can walk through with your body. You're literally able to walk through with your body, but you're keeping your hands up. So the timing is, as this door opens, I have to follow this line, this doorway, this walkway that I'm going to walk past before this has a chance to close. And that's your timing. The whole timing is, how do I make this arrive? Right? So you have to think about, in one movement, there may be multiple things happening. There may be multiple timing happening. Right? You can't be fixed on just one thing. If you're fixed on just one thing, then you only think here, you forget here. You only think about here, you forget here. But you understand that my one timing is going to be the moment my hand touches here. Another timing, because I got 2 hands, is the moment this one lands here. And you can focus your timing with your step, matching the step with the punch landing, right? So timing is a very important thing to understand. And to really understand it, you have to understand that they will start at different times, but they have to finish at a specific moment that they come together, right? And that's the goal, right? Anybody step in and it feels a little awkward and their timing always seems off? Why do you think that is? Footwork, very important. But what is the key to the footwork that's making it awkward? Distance. Distance has a play in it for timing, right? Because you have to understand the further you go, the moment's going to be longer.
Stepping in the correct position.
What's faster, your hands or your feet?
Hands up on your feet.
The hands are always going to be able to move faster than your feet can. So if you think that you have to start the punch when you start the step, you're always going to punch before you arrive. So why do we step in Wing Chun?
Cover distance.
That is the only thing. I have a certain amount of distance I have to cover. And guess what? I have to start this covering of distance that's now going to allow me to arrive. And when I arrive, I have to arrive with timing. So really, you're starting with the step. You're coming in and then finishing. But if you fire your hands at the same time as you step, your hands will always finish before your feet. So, or you'll do the opposite. You'll lean, and then your feet will come afterwards. But if you understand that the step is a close distance, then as you're closing the distance, I'm safe here. But as I get closer, I'm not so safe. So I have to deal with it as I get closer. And then you have fun. But timing is that moment. And you can do that moment. And it's not when this drags back. It's when this touches. You have that timing. Thanks. So now that you can focus at that moment, that is very specific for timing. The variables in timing are huge. That's all when to start. One of the things I explained to some of the guys before is if you go do double dutch, and I suck at it, but if you go do double dutch, timing is not go. Timing is arrive now, and you're in it. Because the go is all variable. When do I go? That's all variable. But arriving is very specific. So that's what you focus on. Okay? What's the next one? Coordination. I'm going to skip one, just so we don't run out of time. Because I want you guys to think about this in athletics. I had a little demo that I'm going to have a couple guys do for me. We're going to go to relaxation. Do you guys know what relaxation is in kinesiology? Kinesiology, study of the body, movements, and everything. Jeremy, who came up earlier, luckily was in kinesiology when he first started training, and he came back with this, and it was beautiful. In kinesiology, the term for relaxation is to be neither, come on, someone say, contracted, or I don't want to be contracted, and I do not want to be what? Stretched. That's how you create tension. If I go here and I'm like touching my toes, I can touch my toes, but there's tension. That's not relaxed. I can stand with my legs straight and create tension by contracting. That's not relaxed. Being relaxed is to be neither contracted nor stretched. And kinesiology is a beautiful thing. They have a thing called optimal length. If I do this, is this contracted? What brings my arm to this position? Bicep. So this is a contracted position. Well, this is a stretched position. And if I do this, this is a contracted position. This is a stretched position. Does that look familiar? For Wing Tsun, fist and thumb? That is what's called in kinesiology optimal length. That is the balance between two muscles. The perfect balance while both muscles are equal. They have the same amount of contraction and the same amount of stretched. And we find ours by fist and thumb away. Now that we find this position, we have the most advantageous position to explode power in both directions because both muscles are equal. Can you guys find optimal length somewhere else for me? In Wing Tsun, somebody want to give it a shot? You're thinking about it. I thought you were. Somebody want to give it a shot?
Would it be with your legs? A slight degree.
Slight degree? How about tuck the hip? Bend the knees as much as possible with the hip tuck. If you untuck your hip, you can bend your knees all the way. But if you tuck the hip, you can only bend your knees so far. And now using the hip open, now using the hip closed, and my leg is in optimal length. Okay, so for kicking, if you train in Wing Tsun and you stand up, is your legs are in optimal length? No. If your legs are too bent, are you in optimal length? No. In athletics, a full body explosion, the most explosive thing you can think in athletics, what would that be? Somebody said it. Sprint. Okay? And what is a sprinter in when he explodes out of the blocks? On your mark. Get set. Thank you very much. It's optimal length. Right? So when these guys are going to come out of the blocks, their legs are actually in the same position as us when we're here. So in this position, you have optimal length. You have the most ability to explode forward, to receive. I'm going to use Dwayne and Ollie for this real quick. Can I have a little bit of space, everybody come back just for a second? Just to re-emphasize this. And you guys can try this later if you want. My friend Dwayne, humble little guy, but I'll tell you, if anybody in this room can actually beat him in a sprint, I'll be impressed. Okay, so I'm going to have you guys over here. Okay. Just to give you an idea how fast Dwayne is, when I've known him since we were teenagers and stuff. We have another friend, Roland, who was an OFSA sprinter. OFSA is Ontario level competition. And Dwayne beat him wearing construction boots that weren't tied up. Okay, so we're going to have 3 races just to prove this, okay? First one's equal. On your mark, and try to get optimal length. Get set, go. And Dwayne's gone. Okay, but you guys not trying, man. I know you guys need a little bit of room. A little bit. Can we have just so they can have 1 or 2 steps more? I want a boom out of the blocks. Boom. Okay, on your marks, get set, and I lost. You lost. Maybe we should get Ollie to do the other part. Right? Okay, so Ollie's the faster guy today. Now we're going to have Dwayne do on your mark, get set, go, and we're going to have Ollie start from here. Okay? On your mark, get set. Hey! That's a foul.
I got 2 balls.
On your mark, get set. And then you can see he's having a hard time getting out of the blocks. He's like, got to get up and go. Right? I guess we need a little bit more space for this. Right? Okay, on your mark, stand up straight. Straight, straight, straight. Legs together, straight as tall as you can go. On your mark, get set, go. And you can tell one's out of the box. What this represents is optimal length. One person each time. On your mark, get set, in optimal length. Boom, he's gone. The other guy is in a contracted position and stretched. And at this point, and then goes. And then you got the other person, legs straight, has to bend to go. Cannot take off otherwise. And if we flip the script, this represents this. And if you guys ever look at old boxing, I'm not putting boxing down, look at old boxing. Old boxing's out here. New boxing's here. Okay? But again, this represents this. Stay away, get away, don't hurt me. But this is optimal length. So if you guys are training Chi Sao, standing up, you have no way of exploding. If you guys train Pak Sao standing up, you have no way of exploding it. Right? Basically, anybody here play tennis? Is there any tennis players? Receiving a what do you call it? A serve? How are you going to be? Your legs are compressed. You're not standing here. You're not relaxed. And hey, how you doing? There's a state of readiness that you have to play tennis. You're here. Boom. Which way are you going to go? Right? You're in the sprinters in the blocks. You're not tense, but you're ready. Wing Chun, same. Right? We have a phrase called chongqi, forward energy. Right? And it's a full body experience. It's legs, body, hands. It's a constant want to go. In the idioms, it's let's go chong, hand let's go forward. Right? But it's when you anybody who doesn't speak Cantonese, chong is a word that's referred to a lot in water. How the water presses on a dam, the way it presses in a hose. If you have a fireman and he's got water in that hose and he opens the hose, the water doesn't go, oh, and go. As soon as you open that hose, boom, the water goes. Sprinters in the blocks, he hears that gun crack, boom, he's gone. It's an instant readiness. Right? So when you're training, when you're here, you have to have energy, but when you're first starting, you're not moving. So there's no pressure. So you can relax and not add tension. But the muscles themselves, just to keep you standing, they're being used. There's how much energy are you using in comparison to somebody else? That's what Wing Chun's doing. I like to say as much as necessary, as little as possible. Right? But key to that, as much as necessary. But still as little as possible. That's your balancing act. Right? So, it's you have to think of yourself as an athlete. When you're training, you have to think of yourself with a readiness, right? Not a tenseness, but a readiness. Right? Where were we? Coordination?
Also the orientation.
Yeah, but which one was first?
Coordination.
Coordination. What do we think coordination is? Anybody want to give it a shot? Mind controls the body, but it's not coordinated. It's a good try, but it's not exactly what we're looking at. Anybody else want to give it a shot?
Both sides of the brain.
Both sides of the brains do different things. So one's logic, one's art. Which one's athletics, I can't tell you. But both sides of the brain do different things.
Successfully synchronizing the execution of tasks.
Wow, that's pretty good, pretty close. Say it again.
What did I say?
The execution.
Successfully synchronizing the execution of multiple tasks.
We'll change the word from. We'll change the word task.
Okay.
Movement. Movement. My old example, and I have to think about that one because that was pretty good, is the ability. It's really what it is. It's an ability to be able to do things together or separate as chosen. So you can choose to do tanda and have both hands work together, or if this hand's getting pushed away, let it go and replace it. Are two examples of being able to do things together or separate. But it's an ability and it's a choice. You can use your whole body as one unit, or you can separate things. Right? And Wing Chun really helps coordination huge. Because you're constantly using both hands, upper and lower. Right? But that's pretty close for somebody who hasn't heard it before. Right? Orientation. What is orientation?
Where you are in relation to something else.
Very good. Where you are in relation to everything else. Right? So, when you go to work or go to school, there's orientation. So when you gotta go pee real bad, you don't run across the other side of campus, you go to the closest washroom. You gotta know where everything is in relation to you and how that changes with all the variations of you moving. How does that apply in Wing Chun? Where, pardon me? Facing? You're not allowed to use the word that we're trying to describe.
Knowing the distance between yourself and the world around you.
Keyword. Keyword in that.
Distance.
I'm lucky I'm pretty aware when Jeremy came up, I was like this, and I was like, can you step back please? Because I didn't want to go off the edge of the stage. Right? If you're training, I'll use Ricky again. Okay? And we just use Paxo again because it's a very basic drill that everybody's done. If I do this, what was off? My timing was good, my balance is good, but what's off? Distance. There is no difference in falling short and not being able to hit somebody and missing. You missed. You missed in a different way, but you missed. So if you're training and you're like, wow, I can't hit him. Try. Put your hands down, please. Man, I can't hit him. What's off? I'm not. So at that point, it's like, now this is changed it. But at the same time, I can collapse my distance. I can train and get too close. Because what's the beautiful thing about this? Optimal length. And when you want to hit somebody, where do you want it to land? here. So when you punch, heel of the hand by the elbow, that's where the punch starts. Not allowed to be any bigger than that in Wing Chun. Can't start here, can't pull back, the heel of the hand by the elbow. And that's the furthest my fist can travel. So when I punch in the air, I let it go all the way out. But when I want to hit an object, my hand is this far. It can only travel to here. And every time it lands, it's landing in the perfect position that your hand's not going to collapse. It's not overextended. It's every time in optimal length. Boom, boom. That's where you get your power. Is distance, timing, relaxation. All of the attributes coming together. Because if I'm here, just like I did before, if I'm too far away, I have no power. If I get closer, yeah, I can hit them, but it's not going to be the same as landing in that sweet spot. Right? Every car has a power band, so do we. Right? So if you land too close, your power hasn't had a chance to generate. If you land too far, your power is expelled. You have to land within here for you to have your power. Optimal length. And if we look at optimal length as the ability to relax, you're actually landing in a relaxed position. Right? So if I land here, my arm's not relaxed. If I land here, my arm's not relaxed. If I land here, my arm's in a relaxed position because it's balanced between both muscles. Right? So that way you get to play, and anytime you fall short, it's an issue of not being oriented. Not just knowing how close he is to you, but how close you need to get. Right? So when you guys play with the attributes, you guys have to look at it in a physical way. Right? So that way, you know, you can look at yourself as an athlete. You know, you're doing a physical pursuit. We're not running, we're not huffing and puffing, doing sit-ups and everything else, but we still are physical. Right? We're just doing it in a different way, but you have to still have your mindset set like an athlete because you're doing a physical pursuit. Okay? We'll just take some time, let you guys, don't know the levels of everybody, but partner up with guys that you guys know, practice a couple of drills, and we can come around and discuss how these different drills get affected by the attributes. Okay? So let's take some time. Okay? Okay guys, pretty much that's my portion of this. I don't know what's happening exactly for the next one, but we're going to have my super come up after, I guess, more photos and stuff. But like I said from the beginning, I don't want anybody here to believe me. You know, if you guys agree with me, great. If you guys want to talk about it, that's great too. Just a little history. My Sifu taught me a long time ago that you don't learn Kung Fu in the school. You learn it at the dinner table. Okay? So basically that means take your Sifu out, buy him dinner, talk to him, have a relationship with him, and discuss it. Come back and train. So the school is where you train, the dinner table is where you learn. Right? So everything is open for conversation. Right? We're all family. We may have different ideas, different personalities, all that other stuff, but don't agree with me without thinking about it. Right? Don't believe me. Right? Just take some time, keep the sheet. That was my, I had that in my wallet for years while I was training, and I used it as a reference point. So if you guys are going to talk to me after, no what ifs, we'll debate on the sheet. Okay? Thank you very much.